Good evening. We're going to call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Testing 1, 2. Oh.
Mine's on.
Okay, I'm going to switch. We'll share. We're going to call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. The mission statement of Allendale Public Schools is to commit, to educate, inspire, and support all students. Amy, you have the roll. Thank you. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah. All right, the statement of commitment. Liz?
Policy 5.1 states that trustees serve to assure that the mission of the district is achieved without discrimination.
Public participation process. Members of the audience are welcome to make comments at the time designated on the agenda. Please register on the sign-up sheet and limit your comments to 3 minutes when your name is called. Out of respect for all individuals, please refrain from personal criticisms in an open forum. And you can refer to policy 167.3 if you have any other questions. All right, we're going to move to our agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All right, motion by Kevin, supported by Liz. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say the same. Motion passes. Okay, we're going to move on to our organizational part of our meeting, and the very first thing we're going to tackle is the election of officers. We're first going to take nominations for the board president. So do we have any nominations for the board president?
I would like to nominate Kevin.
All right, Kevin. Anybody else?
Need a second for that.
Huh?
Is it a full motion? It's just nominations first.
We're just doing nominations first, yep. All right. Do we have a motion to vote amongst, well, actually, we just have one nominee. So do we have a motion to vote on Kevin to serve as the APS board president?
I will make a motion that Kevin Halsted serve as the APS board president.
Support.
All right, motion by Josh, seconded by Liz, to vote for Kevin Holsteg to serve as the APS board president. Do we have any discussion? All right, seeing none, we are going to take a roll call vote, and I'm going to say this is going to just be a yes or no since we only have one person. So,
Harris. Yes. Hendricks.
yes.
Holsteg.
Yes.
Ramey. Yes. Tenbring.
Yes.
Thurkettle.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Congrats, Kevin.
Thank you.
You are the new board president, and you get to take over.
All right. I need
You
to-
can have your seat. Oh, yeah, and you can. Give it all to you.
I will save my seat for tonight. All right. Can I have nominations from the floor for position of vice president?
I nominate Liz Ramey.
And yes. Liz. If no one further, can I have a motion to vote for Liz as board vice president?
I make a motion to vote for Liz Ramey to serve as the APS board vice president.
Support.
Amy, will you please call the roll?
Hendricks.
Yes.
Holsteg.
Yes.
Ramey. Yes. Tenbring.
Yes.
Thurkettle.
Yes.
The motion passed. Congratulations, Liz.
Sorry.
Oh, we didn't.
Oh.
Harris.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought she was done. I apologize. All right. Now the motion passed. Do I have nominations for board secretary?
I'd like to nominate Josh to stay there.
Do we have any other nominees? All right. Could I have a motion to vote on Josh for board secretary?
I make a motion for Josh Thurkettle to serve as APS Board Secretary.
Support.
Motion by Liz, support by Anna. Any discussion? Amy, will you have the roll, please?
Holstead?
Yes.
Ramey?
Yes.
Tenbrink?
Yes.
Thurkettle?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
The motion passed. Can I have a motion, or can I have nominees for board treasurer?
I nominate Pam.
Any other nominees? Then could I have a motion to vote on Pam DeYoung as APS Board Treasurer?
I'll make a motion to elect Pam DeYoung as the board treasurer.
Motion by Josh,
Support.
support by Anna. Any discussion? Amy, will you call the roll, please?
Ramey?
Yes.
Tenbrink?
Yes.
Thurkettle?
Yes.
Harris? Yes. Hendricks?
Yes.
Holstead?
Yes. Motion passed. All right. Can I have a motion for board secretary designee of depositor for school funds?
I make a motion to appoint Allendale Public Schools Chief Business Official Scott Park, Accounting Supervisor, and Board of Education Treasurer as depositor of school funds.
Support.
Motion by Liz, support by Anna.
So this is an all in favor.
Oh, this is not a roll call, so, any discussion? I think it's pretty straightforward. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say the same. Motion pass. Can I have a motion to appoint Amy as executive assistant?
I make a motion to appoint Administrative Assistant Amy Vissers as posting designee.
Support.
Motion by Liz, support by Anna. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say the same. Motion pass. Can I have a motion for recording secretary?
I make a motion to appoint Administrative Assistant Amy Vissers as recording secretary.
Support.
Motion by Liz, support by Anna. Discussion. All right, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say the same. Motion pass. Leave. The next session, we are voting all at the end. So first, we have the regular meeting dates. Those are Yeah, Garth, you got, that's just set up the second Tuesday of every month,
Mondays.
or second Monday, sorry.
Yep, they are, we didn't have any that we had to move to a third this month. One thing, underneath where it says regular meetings, those are 2025 dates, not 2024 dates. I apologize for the typo. And the other thing that I would just highlight is that the April 14th date is actually the Monday we get back from spring break. So anyone going south, make sure you are back on the 13th or early on the 14th, please. Yep, but otherwise, yeah, they are all the second Monday this year.
Work sessions, kind of the fourth Monday of every month, if needed.
Yep. We don't have one in May because that's Memorial Weekend. We don't have one typically in November for Thanksgiving or December because of that holiday as well. Or July, in July because it's a very light agenda usually.
Perfect. On to committee members. We had Liz, Anna, and Kim on as CEB, so we need to replace one if you guys want to stay on.
I'd like to stay as well.
Okay. So we just need one more volunteer.
So I don't know if anybody wants background on that committee. I don't know if Brandon or Tanya, if you guys do, because you guys can serve on committees if you're interested, but it's a Sex Ed Advisory Board. We typically meet at least twice a year and review potential curriculum changes, would have to meet more frequently if there's law changes or anything like that that would potentially affect any sort of sex education curriculum. There is, I can't remember how many parents are involved, but there's community parents that are involved in the committee as well. Beth is typically there. There's teacher personnel and things like that too. We meet in the boardroom. Yeah. It's not a huge responsibility, but it is a couple of extra meetings.
Is anybody willing to be part of that?
I know Pam has served on that committee in the past, so if no one else is
I
interested.
will too, I'll take it.
Oh, thank you.
We will, thank you, Josh. Discipline Committee, I believe, Josh, you were on that. Josh, myself, and Kim were on that last year.
I would like to be on that one.
All right.
And I would just like to give a heads up that we probably will have a hearing in the next 7 to 10 days. So just give you that notice.
I would be willing to go off if somebody else wants to be on there.
Same. But I'm willing to stay on too.
All right,
If
yeah.
Tony wants to take Kim's place, if
Okay.
someone else wants on too, I'm willing to go off.
It's up to you, Kevin. I don't mind taking the turn on it, but if you're taking the president, would be more work for that. If you want something else, it's a little break, but you'll probably be involved anyways.
I can do it. I think it, yeah.
Kevin, Josh, Tanya?
Yep. Ottawa County Association of School Board. Is that right?
Yep, Ottawa
Lost
Area
me.
School Board Association, yep.
Yep. Representative.
Has
I know
Pam expressed
Pam-
interest in that, continuing in that?
She does enjoy that, and again, but I'm sure she would be happy to let someone else take that on if they'd like to.
Yeah, I think it would be good. I would be interested in it, but it would be nice to have Pam maybe work as a delegate, so, I can sort of leverage her experience in that role.
Yeah.
I think would be really good.
Everyone on the
ask her
board
about
is
that.
invited, you're all invited to those countywide meetings, and then it's just, we have one representative who actually, if there's a voting issue, they have to vote on, they
Okay,
represent the board, so.
yeah,
But
well, I'm
yeah.
interested if Pam would like, for me to do that instead of her.
Oh, okay.
But certainly she can continue with that.
Yeah,
Yes. Yep. Yep.
So Brandon.
You okay if I put you as a representative, Brandon?
No, that's great.
And,
Then Pam as a delegate.
yep. Thank you. MASB, we need 2 delegates. I believe Pam and Kim were doing it last year.
I would be interested in that.
Okay.
also.
Brandon, and anyone else?
I'm good
That's
with leaving.
Pam and Brandon,
I think
right?
Pam's,
Pam and
Yeah.
Brandon, so we have two.
Yeah, there we go.
And then alternates.
Then we need two alternates, which I would be willing to be an alternate,
I will also.
and Josh. Thank you. I think most of these miscellaneous items, any discussion on postings? Organizational meetings? Public participation process? Roll call votes?
I have a quick question on that.
Yes.
I know before we had put roll call votes on, it says here, funds, purchase of property, resolutions, we had added policy to that. Do we want to keep that?
Yeah, I thought policy was on that too. Garth, is that already a thing, or do we need to add that in?
I don't think it would hurt to add that officially, add the word policy on there, and then make sure it's in the minutes.
Okay. So Amy, you got that?
Yeah, we can, yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, Nick saves us from trying to.
From having to
rewrite
ask.
this.
I mean, if we vote on X amount of policies every year, it's just nicer than already have it built in there, just the name
Yeah.
and know the language in there.
Do we need a motion to change that, or can we add that in?
No, I think you can just make that change, right, Josh?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Josh. We will add policy to that,
Thank you.
roll call vote. Compensation. Mileage, auditor, primary counsel, and depository. We are good. Can we have a motion on the meetings, representatives, delegates, alternates, and miscellaneous items?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting schedule, times, dates, representatives, delegates, alternates, and miscellaneous items as presented.
Motion by Josh, support by Liz. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say the same. Motion pass. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion by Anna, support by Liz. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say the same. The motion pass. Public comment. Liz, you have the timer? Or? All right. Thank you, Amy. First, we have Ronnie Allen.
Hi. Well, congrats and welcome and all the things for Happy New Year and stuff, so to the new board. I did have a few questions. I looked over the agenda about the proposal to hire Galapagos Marketing for the schools. Just wondering about the cost and where the money's gonna come from. It's interesting, the timing is right before the bond initiative, and I'm wondering if, it looked like in the language on the agenda that was potentially for the bond. Or saw that somewhere, so. And if it is coming from taxpayer funds, then it seems to me that the vote is, tonight, would be to pay for marketing, for a marketing firm paid for out of taxpayer funds in order to pass the bond to increase taxes to the same taxpayers. And I guess if people want that, more power, but it just seems like it's not really a conflict of interest. I didn't know how to phrase it, but it seems like a bit of a conflict to me. I have had some concerns about school resources and kind of the goodwill of the schools being used to promote a high bond, okay? And I know that's debatable. Some people think the price tag wasn't that high. I found it was high, but, and then the snow day email lists and things like that, web pages, like, I don't know the ethics on that. I have a gut feeling about some things. When we're marketing to the taxpayer base out of the public funds in the education system. So anyway, I don't know if y'all are following me. I'm trying to make it make sense, but my thoughts don't always come out my mouth right. So yeah, I guess my concern is that opposition to the opposition. I don't even like that word, but opposition to the bond that you would sense is looked at like you're anti-children and anti-education and the whole system. And in reality, it's people just taking stewardship over their resources and using their opinion over how they feel, what they feel the funds should be spent on. Do we need the funds? Things like that. So that's just my 2 cents. I just question hiring marketing. So thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie. Next, we have Troy Lampin.
Good evening. I just want to take a moment to welcome Brandon and Tanya to the board. Congratulations on your win. And I just wanted to take the time to encourage the new members and old members alike, take advantage of the resources available to you. You know, rely on the expertise of your fellow board members. Rely on the expertise of the former board members. I see Mr. Mangos here. Thank you for coming, Corey. They have a vast amount of knowledge to share, especially to the new members. Also take advantage of the tools available to you, MASB courses. They're very helpful. They help you get up to speed. And then also I would like to echo some of the sentiment that Mr. Mango shared on his outgoing meeting last month. You know, take the time, settle in, get used to your roles, learn the ins and outs. I appreciate that everyone on the board has items they're passionate about, things that they want to see done, changes they want to see made, myself included. That's why I ran. But Rome wasn't built in a day. Take advantage of the work sessions that are available to you, work with the public, engage with the public on those changes, and we can all come together for change that's positive and everyone is supportive of. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being here. I look forward to hopefully making a positive change together with the board in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Christina Yatsky. Stop. I'm sorry.
First, want to welcome Brandon and Tanya. I'm looking forward to hearing your voices added to the board. Reading about the upcoming vote on using the marketing company, I was stuck on wondering how marketing would be used to address the retention of staff and students. And I have 5 questions on that. 1, I've heard it mentioned that some students left the school for athletic or orchestra opportunities. But what about all the other students? What about staff? Do you have that data? Do you do exit surveys? And number 2, are you using that data or exit information to make this decision on whether to add more marketing? Number 3, is spending money to externally market the school the best way to address and fix the internal issues that cause students and staff to leave? Number 4, do you think social media campaigns and streamlined communications will cause those who left to want to come back, or those on the verge of leaving to stay? If not, then I ask you to be more specific about what you're saying this money is for. I saw on the Ottawa ISD website that they provide a full range of strategic internal and external integrated communications marketing, public and media relations, and creative services to local schools, which include advertising, branding, campaign strategy, communications, marketing, and social media best practices. So if that's something already provided by the ISD, why is it we need an additional marketing company? And as Ronnie said, looking at the timing of when you're deciding the school needs this additional marketing, one would think that the upcoming May vote on the bond is what's driving this. And I feel like the people of Allendale spoke with the bond vote in August, and so to continue throwing money, taxpayer money, at this is wasteful. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Krista. Sorry. All right, committee reports. Is there anything from CM? Superintendent report. Dr. Cooper?
Yeah, the only comment I had today is I just wanted to welcome our new board members and looking forward to working with all of you.
All right. Board comment. Josh, we'll start with you. Thank you. Brandon?
No comment.
Anna?
Just welcome, Brandon, welcome, Tanya. Good to have you guys here tonight.
Liz?
Same thing. Welcome, guys. I'm glad to have you. Reach out if you guys have some questions. That's about it.
Tanya?
No.
All right. President comments. Not a whole lot. Thank you for the support of my board members. I hope to serve and promote the school and do it in a fashion that is representative of Allendale. I think we do have stuff on the agenda for the next work session coming up, or no? So we will have one this month. So plan on, I think that was the 24th, I believe, 27th. So, but yeah, other than that, welcome Tanya and Brandon, and look forward with working with you guys and to support our students. We'll move on to action items. Can I have a motion for the bond, the ballot language for the bond?
We can have an opportunity to sort of have a conversation about that.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the ballot language for the bond proposal as presented.
Motion by Josh. Support by Liz. All right, yeah, start with you, Dr. Cooper, and then we'll have a discussion.
Yeah, generally, this is basically the last step in the process in getting this on the ballot. We've worked through the proposal, we've had our steering committee meetings, we've gone through the feedback from our community members, and we sent the proposal, the preliminary application to Treasury, had the meeting with them. They've sent back a couple suggestions, we tweaked the application a little bit, and then they gave their final approval. And so now the only thing left to do to get this on the ballot in May is for the board to approve the application.
All right, thank you. Do you have questions, or?
Yeah, just some observations. Thank you. Just some observations and some questions. It looks like in the bond language, there's no reference to the Early Childhood Center. Have we done something different?
It speaks to building expansions.
Okay. And so that would encompass the ECC?
Yeah,
Okay.
and the new industrial arts and all. It just, sometimes they get a little more specific if it's a new, but if it's an expansion, it just talks about new learning spaces, things like that. They keep it fairly broad for ballot language.
Okay, thanks. The other piece in I'll have to maybe study this a little bit more, but it looks like the debt service, the way that that's structured, there's a pretty significant amount of interest that we'll pay. So if you look at Exhibit A of Attachment 6, it's the second paragraph below the proposed language for the bond. So it looks like there's a total principal borrow amount of $12 million, and the estimated total interest that we'd pay on that $12 million is $19 million. Is that accurate?
Well, the total amount we're trying to borrow is 88 million.
Yep.
So it's on page 6.
Yeah, that paragraph just speaks to the piece we have to borrow in the school loan revolving fund,
Okay.
right? That's that extra borrowing we have to do to make the principal and interest payments. So we're gonna have to do that up front those first several years. And then once there's enough tax revenue to make the payments, then we'll start paying this back,
Okay.
right? So that will build up, interest will accumulate, and then we'll gradually start paying it off. Interest will still be added on. That's why the interest comes out to be so much higher.
Okay. Yeah, and new experience, so,
Yep, yep.
here's my opportunity to ask some questions and get some
Absolutely.
clarity, so I appreciate it. The other thing that, and it's probably not a popular position to take, but the bond was voted on during the primary election. We had, I think, good turnout from the community. It was rejected, so I might challenge, and I wish I had been involved in the conversation of putting this on a special election for May, but that was decided in the December 9th meeting. So I don't know that the bond necessitates a special election. So I just wanted to share that as my position. So if there is an opportunity to have more conversation, I'd like to do that. And there were some surveys that were sent out, from what I understand, to get community feedback, and I don't know that I've seen the results. We do have,
The survey from that we had sent out, he would like the results.
Sure, I can send those to you. Yep.
I'm just curious on how that directed the changes that we made, and if the steering committee had that. So.
Well, we looked, there was support for all the items that were on the survey. Some we got more support than others. I think some of the feedback led to the addition of the robotics STEM building. Some of the feedback we got led to adding an auxiliary space to the Early Childhood Center. And so that's primarily where that influence came in from the surveys.
With the bond, are we planning to build any structures on that newly acquired 40 acres?
No,
Okay.
not at this time, no.
'Cause I think when we talked before, the pickleball courts and maybe it was the field house was gonna go on top of, or the current location for the ball diamonds.
Yep.
So that we needed to move those.
Yeah,
And I
and-
wonder if that still makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does, because then we can have like a baseball, softball complex coming off 64th and keep our athletic facilities as close as possible over there. So I think it makes the most sense to do that for now.
Okay, thanks.
And then on the special election, there was going to be an election in May anyways. We didn't create this just for this bond. The ISD has an issue that they had already contacted so we just kind of piggybacked with them.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Thanks,
Yeah.
Garth.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Brent. Any more discussion?
Yeah, so I think my perspective, I know there is a lot of emotion with the amount of money and things like that from the bonds. So from a board standpoint, the way I kind of thought through some of this was that I know that the first bond failed. There's lots of reasons for that with the survey and things like that went out. A lot of the reason is some people voted no, they didn't want to spend the money. There was some communication, things that could have been done differently. We've worked through a lot of that. But I know that we're also in a time frame of being able to do a bond and make improvements to the school within a certain amount of time without taxes increasing. You know, it still costs a lot of money, it's still gonna be taxed, they just won't necessarily go up. So I do think it's worthwhile to allow the community the choice again versus it just dying with the board. So that's kind of what I thought through. I don't know that those of us up here should hold that power to say, it failed, we're all done, we're not gonna circle back to it again, because there has been substantial feedback and a lot of shock from a lot of people in the community that were upset, and we do have, you know, students who have specific needs. So I think, like, us voting on this and saying yes tonight is really allowing our community another chance, and if that truly was what they, you know, they're not willing to spend that money, then I think that that's okay. It won't be like an ongoing attempt for a bond, but just knowing it wasn't a perfect rollout to begin with, I think that's kind of where I stand. It's not really up to me. It's, you know, we're putting something on a ballot to allow people to voice their opinions.
I'll kind of echo that. Being on the steering committee, I think we had heard after the fact, and that there were things that it ended up, even looking at the survey, there was a lot of, like, there was nothing that was like, there was no support for it. It just, there was a lot of support, and then there was a few things that didn't get put in there that I believe was a reason it didn't pass. Being that it was so close, I think it was worth, you know, revisiting. If it would have been, you know, we only had 30% support, I think we would seriously rethought, like, okay, the community is completely against this. And, you know, we were only down by 150 votes. I think that's why we, as a board and a steering committee, said, hey, let's go forward and make some tweaks and garner support from some of these entities that didn't feel like they were touched. And I think there's some good stuff in the new bond that was not in the first one that I think will get some support, and that's why, again, like Liz says, we're not gonna sit here and keep chasing it. If, you know, if the community is against it, you know, we'll know during the election.
From a personal perspective, the robotics and STEM building edition, I am excited about, so.
And that was a big group that we heard from that felt not heard.
Yeah, and maybe after I see the survey, that'll give me a different perspective, so. I need to review that.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Liz.
That's it, that's all I had.
Any other discussion? This is a roll call vote. Amy?
Henry,
Was it me?
Yep.
Abstain.
Fairkettle,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Holsteg,
Yes.
Ramey,
Yes.
The motion passed. Can I have a motion to contract the public relations firm?
I'll make a motion to approve contracting with Galapagos for public relations work.
Motion by Josh. I will second it. Dr. Cooper?
Yeah, we've been talking about having someone work with our communications for well over a year. It's been a discussion at the board level that we've had off and on. This goes beyond just marketing. It's things that we've thought about in terms of our social media, getting information out to our community. It certainly is something that came about during the last bond election, where we felt like we were getting information out to people, and then after the election, well, I didn't hear about this, I didn't know about this, and so we felt like, okay, the avenues we were using weren't reaching the people we want to reach. You know, we've been talking for a while about things like our new options program. We have seen some of our student enrollment drop a little bit, but we think there are more kids who would be going to our program who are attending other similar programs. And so we feel like maybe that's something we can look at and reinvigorate that offering and make sure that people understand what the program's all about and see if there aren't more students out there that would be interested in coming to that program. We've looked at, in years past, we have had a full-time communications person when I first got here. We ended up having to cut that during some of our financial issues at the very beginning. Then a few years later, we tried a part-time person, and that wasn't very successful for us either. And so when we did this, I've had conversations with different districts, different superintendents, found out who they're using. Some still hire their own person, like Coopersville. Some use marketing firms. So just trying to understand which made the most sense. When we look at the total cost of this for the year, for the full year, it would be about $30,000. That would be about the cost of a half-time person if we hired our own. And so rather than having a person half-time, we'll have a company full-time that will work for us. So financially, it makes good sense to go this route. So we started thinking about using a firm rather than hiring our own person, because again, the last few times we've done this, it hasn't necessarily been widely successful for us. Doing some research, there's marketing firms locally, like Launch Kit, CIS Agency, but they don't necessarily specialize in schools. And what we do is somewhat unique, and the rhythm of schools is unique, and the appeal of schools is unique, and so we try to find companies that work closely with other schools. There were two other companies I looked at, Social School for EDU, but they're based out of Wisconsin, and that is really a full virtual thing. It's just they do online trainings, and that's more of they support you, which is kind of what we're looking for. Right now, our secretaries are the ones who do the Facebook things. Amy does a lot of that, does it very well. But those other marketing pieces that I didn't feel like this company really focused on that, and the fact that they're in Wisconsin felt a little clunky. And that's the same with the other company, CESO, CESO is out of Minnesota. Again, I've heard good things about them. They do good work. They do a lot of presentations at public relation conventions, so NSPRA, things like that. The thing that kind of concerns me about CESO is they do a lot of things, like they do facilities, and they do financial, and they did organizational, and again, beyond the scope of really what we were looking for here. And as I talked with superintendents in the area and around the state who use a marketing firm, Galapagos kept coming up. And they're currently working locally with Kennewick Hills and Sparta schools. They're also working with Bay City schools over on the east side and a couple of other districts I'm not remembering right off the top of my head. And so Galapagos offered the best balance of, they do a lot of the marketing we're looking for, a lot of the hands-on support for our social media. They do branding, which I think maybe we need to look at that New Options brand and see if there's a way to enhance that. And the fact that they operate right here locally. So it's, you're gonna get face-to-face time, hands-on time. They're gonna come in and meet with us to do the training rather than it being all virtual. And again, the price is really good. So ultimately, after looking at all these different options, I just feel very strongly like Galapagos would be a good support for the district. And going back, like I said, we've been having this conversation for at least a year, if not more, about do we need a communications person? Do we need someone to help us with our marketing, with our branding? There is an element of this to supporting the bond proposal for sure. That's one of the things that they do. And it is part of the price point. But that's not the only reason we're doing this. We've talked about this for a long time, and we do think that there's, after talking with like Kennewick Hills and Sparta, we do believe that this can help bring in students, and if we get 4 more students in a reimagined new options program, it'll pay for itself. The foundation allowance we would get from 4 more kids is more than it will cost us for the year. So it seems like a good investment. It's a 1-year contract. It's $30,000, and actually part of that is broken out into the bond promotion piece of it, and after the bond in May, that cost would even go down lower. So I think it's a very financially reasonable ask, and after the research, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Any other
I have a couple questions. As to like the logo and mascot that they create for us, is that gonna be like usable? Like when I did the election, for example, we had the A issue, and is that something that'll be able to be used by other people? Or is it their brand? I mean, they created it, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Is that something we can use going forward, or is it gonna be like,
No.
we have to pay for it or something like that?
2 things, we contract with them, they're our employees, so we have proprietary right over whatever they create. The other thing is, we're not looking to change our logo, we're not looking to change our mascot.
Okay.
So when we say rebranding, I want to rebrand New Options, because I think I don't think people know what that means. I don't think they know what you're getting if you put your child in New Options. So it's about defining what that program is and who it supports and how it can help kids. Because again, we've got kids in Allendale who are going into the same type of online alternative program in other places, and I wonder if it's just because we're not communicating out well what we can provide. So that's the only real branding. But in terms of branding, what they'll help us do is help us create, with our logo and with our symbol, they'll help us create templates for communication, so that all the communication that goes out from, transportation, food service, the district office, all of that has the same look, that's that brand recognition. So that's where they help support you and things like that. They can help us get the message out to MLive, to the Holland Sentinel. We keep trying to contact them when things happen and we don't get a lot of response, but I feel like they've got the ear of some of the people that don't necessarily listen to individual schools. So hopefully we can highlight some of the accomplishments when our robotics teams are going to nationals down in Dallas, or when our cross-country team wins a state championship, we can get better recognition. And again, I think those are the things we're looking for them to help us with, but we're not looking at changing our logo or our Block A at all.
And then the second question I have is onto the bond, back to the bond issue. That $10,000 that they're thinking about spending, that third, are they gonna go out like, as a walker that I did for 6 months? I mean, I literally talked to each individual person, which is what I think helped, whatever, with the bond. Is that what they're planning on doing, or?
With the help of the steering committee, yep. And again, that's one of the things that we heard is, why didn't know enough about how this works with the taxes? Like, you say it's not going up, but then how do you pay for it? And we try to communicate it out. They know how to communicate that out. We're gonna wanna do mailers this time. We didn't do mailers in August because there were so many political mailers, we thought it would get lost. Well, we definitely wanna do mailers with information. And they will help us design those. They have successfully helped Kenowa Hills pass 3 bond proposals in the last 7 or 8 years, after Kenowa failed twice. So they kind of know how to get that communication out. And so those types of things, yes, like getting walkers out, here's the flyer, they'll help us design those flyers for maximum impact. I think one of the things that we got really excited about in August was some of the athletic changes, and those are exciting. But there's also a lot of great academic things in here, the industrial arts program, the additional space for preschool, and some of those other things that I think got lost because we got so excited about athletics. And I think a company like Galapagos would help us understand that, hey, you got to send the message out so people get all the information. And I think we got limited in our information the first time. So I think they can help us with that.
Okay, thank you.
Couple, yeah, so I think you probably addressed, I appreciate it, thank you, John. Good looking out. So I think you kind of addressed one of the questions I had, which was whether or not this violated campaign law, specifically the bond proposal, because we are using public funds, I think, to influence
results?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Okay.
And can I
Another,
explain that a little bit? So
Yeah, please.
they won't necessarily help us create information that says vote yes on this bond. Their role will be to help us disseminate information about what are you building, who's it gonna support, what's the financial impact. We can spend school resources to get the information out. We can't spend school resources to say vote yes. Does that make sense? So that's why it's a little different, with their role would be a little different.
Right, I think what I read was influence, so it wasn't specifically vote yes, but spending public monies to influence the outcome was kind of the way I read it, but
Yeah, no,
if there
it's,
are other districts doing it, then I'm confident that, that my concerns resolved. The other piece, kind of an observation with all of the, you know, the proposal from Galapagos, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of sort of check-in points with the board. Hey, we're gonna produce this, can you review it, approve it? I think that would be valuable. There's some line items that, that I think, you know, it would be nice just to have something in here that, the information's gonna come back to the board at least for review. Couple things that I saw.
yeah, and there's certain things that I'm sure we would share with the board. You'd have to let me know exactly what you're looking for. We do a lot of contracted services, and, you know, for HVAC and irrigation and all kind, and we don't typically
I don't have any.
show the
interest in
board,
reviewing
yeah.
it,
And so you'll need to tell me exactly, but yeah, if they're creating flyers, or if they're creating postcards to go home, or if they're including informational packets with financial information, we will absolutely share that with the board. One of the primary reasons is to share it with you, is people are gonna ask you about it. So we're gonna want you to have as much information as possible, so that you know what's being shared with the community. So you'll get a lot of that, but if there's something specific, you need to make sure you let me know, so we don't overlook it.
And I think too, like we can, Dr. Cooper, if we ask him if we want to see things, we can always see them. As far as coming back to us for approval, that wouldn't necessarily be something that the board would take up. Because if it's not curriculum or financial, like we're spending money or something in relation to like his contract, we wouldn't vote on that publicly. But he can always email us things and like attachments and stuff so we can see them. If this passes, our stamp of approval is done at that point. We wouldn't, like, it would be a little like micromanaging for us to then kind of get into more detail, and wouldn't necessarily be privy to the board. But we can always see it,
Okay.
if that kind of helps explain.
I would expect you'd see a lot of it at the work sessions, because then I can, you know, put it up on the board for the community to see, and then we can have conversations, discussions about it, things like that. So you'll have input, like we'll show you a flyer and you might say, hey, it's missing this, or could we include that? So you'll have a chance to give that input. It'll probably be at the work sessions.
Okay. Yeah, there was a specific bullet point, monthly campaigns will be developed in coordination with Allendale staff and aligned with district values / family needs. So that was something that,
Yeah.
you know, kind of raised my eyebrows.
Yeah, that just says that we review everything, that they don't put out anything without at least our say-so.
Okay. Then the other piece that I'd like to talk about, or, you know, maybe even remove, is teacher and staff communications. So there are bullets, equip teachers and staff with messaging tools to answer questions, share key information confidently, and provide talking points for in-class or parent interactions. And I wonder if that's going to influence the teachers to have a specific position, and I'd like, you know, just to make sure if there is a teacher who's opposed, that they feel free, you know, to express that just as loudly maybe as somebody who's going to use the talking points that are provided. Also want to sort of level check with the union and make sure that, you know, there's no issue, or at least that they're advised and supported.
Sure, so I met with Galapagos first, kind of screened them as I did with other companies, And when I felt like they had the potential to be the group we wanted to use, they came in and presented to our entire admin team. And so we talked about that point, really what that is for, and you know, some of you have seen the communications come home from our teachers, like I got one today from my daughter's social studies teacher. And I got one yesterday from today's Monday, so I guess I got that today too, from the math teacher. What they're saying is, we will help them just, again, it's part of that branding. So all the emails we get from teachers don't look different. They all kind of follow the same format. They're not telling them what to say. The teachers have to create the content. It's the teacher's words. It's how do we present it in a way so that it looks uniform, so it always looks similar and it promotes the brand. So that's what that's about, is just how do they communicate in a similar fashion.
Keep forgetting that. All right, thank you. That's good insight.
Yeah. No, good questions, all good questions.
That won't delay emails that much then?
No, because what they'll do, once you kind of have those forms set, then it's just a matter of filling that in every time. You know, it's taken us years, and I still don't think we're 100% on that, to convince teachers that when they send out those mass emails, put their name on it, because there's still times, I remember Josh one time, Garth, I got kids in 3 different buildings. How do I know which building this is coming from? So that's one of the things that we've worked really hard on is, hey, when you send this out, put it right up front. That's why usually when mine go out, please see attachment from the superintendent so that people know right up front. So just little things like that that will streamline communication so that a parent with kids in multiple buildings should be able to instantly know, okay, this is my high school student, this is my Oakwood student, this is whatever. So it won't slow it down. Once they get the form created for us, it actually, I think it'll streamline it a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit to Garth's point, this has been a discussion in his evaluation for at least the last 2 evaluations of how can we promote our school and get it out there, because we have, I mean, there was an article about Zealand sending 1 team to World for robotics, and we sent 8, and they got the promotion, and you know, we're just trying to figure out how do we get out that information that, hey, we have one of the top 5 program in the state in robotics, and we're not getting local media attention for our students. I think that is what really kind of started this look for a marketing firm to promote our school. And yeah, it does come on the heels of the bond, but I think it was more derivative of Dr. Cooper's evaluation that we were like, man, we need to figure out a way to get our local media to support our schools in our not only athletics, our robotics, our choir, our band, everybody, and support that. So that is a little bit of where this kind of came from.
Would there be any appetite to removing the bond portion and voting on the other 2 items for this?
Not for me.
And I think one of the biggest concerns from the feedback we got on the survey was we didn't feel like we had enough information. And so we thought we were working really hard to get information out, but it turns out when we heard from people in the community, they weren't receiving it. I think it's really important this time to make sure that the information gets out.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate that too. The reasoning for my stance is, again, if they were doing that, pressuring people, trying to coerce votes, et cetera, we would be in violation of state law then too. So that's not the impetus behind this. The drive is to have consistent messaging, make sure all the information is given, because that numerous feedback respondents to the survey data was, we didn't even know all the right information. And so that's the whole point behind this group taking this on. And I'll again reiterate that I would say it even goes back further than 2 years ago, because, I mean, a former board member, Kim, I mean, she was very adamant about this over the last, I'd say, 4 to 6 years about rehiring someone. She was here, or I was here right when the last full-time person position ended. We had the part-time position in both of our terms, and it was just something as far as the consistent messaging piece that we felt like, again, we kept pushing back, going, Dr. Cooper does great, he does great. I thought he did great during COVID with his messages to all school, et cetera. You know, he always does great with that, but is there something more that if someone was dedicated to that position, we could have more consistent messaging that was going out to the public? And so that's really where I would say that this is a driving factor right now to be important to have it happen across the board.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think, you know, there's the optic of professionalism when you have alignment between your documents. That's why I'm supportive of the first two line items. I just have some questions about the bond. I want to understand that a little bit better. I don't know if we were to vote and it was approved this evening, how soon would it be that we're going to engage them to get started with this?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay. Understood.
I let them know that this was coming up. They might even be watching online right now. No, we'd want to get them going right away. We have a steering committee meeting next Thursday, and we're hoping to have, you know, a lot of people here to help drive that message, and we would certainly want Galapagos to be there to help with that too. And again, it would be very beneficial to have them to help us with the bond, because again, I want to make sure people have the information. I'm with the rest of you. I live here in Allendale too. I pay these taxes too. I want my neighbors, when I walk my dog around the neighborhood, to feel like, okay, the bond passed or the bond didn't pass. I felt like when the election came up, I knew what was on the ballot. It's really important to me that we make sure, and I think Galapagos can get us over that hump to make sure that we're reaching people in the community. So that's why.
Yeah, I got that feedback from this last bond too, as there wasn't a good amount of awareness and that the communication plan was lacking. So understand from that perspective.
I found out, we put it in the Allendale Announcer 3 months in a row, but I found out that not a lot of people read I thought everybody read the Allendale Announcer, but apparently not as many as I thought, so.
So I'll just add real quick, one of the things that I do like about it that came out of, actually, I think when we started talking about this in some of the evaluations, it had nothing to do with a bond. We were talking about some of the things that come up on social media as far as just conversations that occur on like large social media sites and things like that, and how to go about putting out accurate information of what the school maybe is or is not doing, particular issues that are taken up, who's responsible for that. There is a lot of things, you know, the secretaries do they do a great job, but that's a lot. And then you're looking at, you know, posting pictures of kids, and do they have the right legal documents that they can post their pictures and some of those things. And the school holds significant amounts of events. There's things going on all the time. And if your kid is directly involved, you know about it. Otherwise, you really kind of don't, unless it's a big, you know, varsity event or something like that. So I like that we could potentially get some more community engagement. I do think that, and would hope that we have substantial oversight so we can kind of make sure that things would, or they're being presented in a light that we would agree with. But I do think we, to kind of gather just community support around our kids in general would be a good thing for the district. I think the better your district is and the happier people feel about the district and the things that are happening, that doesn't mean like everything is positive and rainbows and sunshine. We still have hard work to do and accountability to be had and things like that. But the better that is, the better your community is overall. So I think it's a worthwhile investment for some of those things too.
Amy, will you call the roll, please?
Thurkettle.
Yes.
Harris.
Abstain.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Holsteg.
Yes.
Ramey.
Yes.
Tenbrink.
Yes.
Motion passed. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve placing Trune on retainer as presented.
second it for some discussion. Dr. Cooper?
Yeah, I just want to start out by, reiterating that we know that Coleman Law is our primary attorney. We just voted that again at the beginning of the organizational meeting. There are things that, though, I think Troon can provide for us that really make the district better, more efficient, stronger. They've got the most experience. They're the largest firm representing schools in the state of Michigan. They do a lot of work for us with millages and elections, the bond proposal. They have a lot of expertise. This is what they do. And I think that they can provide us a secondary service. If you look at other districts, very few districts have only one attorney. They use multiple attorneys for different reasons. Almost every district does. When we think about sort of legal input, legal advice, legal guidance, it would be very naive if someone thought that we were only getting that from one source. Basically, any conference we go to is going to have multiple law firms presenting. I have one example here from a conference that our HR director attended this past fall. And at that same conference, Clark Hill presented, Thrun presented, a couple of times for both of them, different attorneys from those firms on different topics. And Miller Johnson also presented at that conference. We get a lot of input from a lot of legal sources. And, we often have called MASB and gotten legal advice from MASB, and that comes to us for free, which is a nice service. And I think they're, especially when it comes to policy or parliamentary procedure, I think they're experts there. And so I don't think we want to shut off any of those avenues because they all make us stronger. The reason I'm asking for us to put them on retainer is it's not really a money savings. There are times it will be a money savings, and there are times it might not be a money savings. But for example, there are required trainings that myself, the HR director, our administrators have to attend by law. And not every law firm is, registered or recognized by the state for being able to present those workshops. Coleman does not. Thrun does a lot of them. This past year, we were required by law to all have training in Title IX. And so that was, I believe, 11 or 12 of us that went to that training. I think it was $300 per person. So it's $3,600. If we were on retainer, it's $150 per person. So there's an $1,800 savings just in one training that we needed to go to. There was a labor and employment webinar that was really important for our HR director to go to with changes coming up in minimum wage law, overtime rules, health insurance, those type of things. Cost $1,200 because we were non-retainer clients. For a retainer client, it would have been about $800, so another $400 savings. We do summer and winter tax resolutions. Thrun, if you're a retainer client, they give those to you for free. They also send you a timeline. It's just very helpful guidance. Because we were a non-retainer client, costs us a couple $100 this year. So there is some money savings, but the real support comes because if you are a retainer client, you get a monthly newsletter from them, and their updates are just excellent information. And I just pulled one from this summer that I got the checklist. I couldn't actually go in and see the articles because we don't have a retainer anymore, but you can see what they talked about. And for this particular month, like they sent the new MARS updates, and MARS is the Michigan Administrative Rules for Special Education. And, we don't want to violate the law. You better know what those regulations are. And so this is a one-stop place to get those. Now, if we had an issue and we called Coleman and he wanted to support us, I'm sure he could look into it. But by getting these updates, we're prepared ahead of time. There's another one in here about teacher certification and some of the rules that change. Again, that's not something that Coleman necessarily does. They don't send us out a newsletter to say, hey, the law just changed on this teacher certification, you should know this. This is good education for us. They did an article on the First Circuit Court upholding a teacher that was terminated for some TikTok that they made. I don't know what it is because I can't look at the article, but I like to read those Because if we ever had an issue here, then I would know, okay, we read about this, this has been adjudicated, I've got the information I need to act on it. And then there's another one here about how PA 67 was amended on the rules for doing school building and construction. This is all really valuable information, and again, I like Dave Coleman. I've worked with Dave Coleman for 2 years. We've had great conversations with him. I just called him a month ago for a student issue we had. But these are things, services that he doesn't provide. And I feel like we should provide these to our administrators. One of the things, again, we talked about my evaluation. We've talked about what a great admin team we've put together. We should give our administrators all the tools they need to be as successful as possible. And, you know, you wouldn't ask food service to prepare a hot meal, but they got to do it without an oven. You wouldn't ask the custodial staff to clean the restrooms, but you don't get a mop or a toilet brush. Everybody needs all the tools that are available to help them be as successful as possible. And I think putting Troon on retainer, because of the experience they have, because of their dedication to school-related issues, the information that they send out is really valuable. One of the things that happened today, I don't know if you've heard about this, Title IX lost a court case. So it was down in eastern Kentucky. The 2024 Title IX changes, which we all went through training for, got shot down. Now, and again, I don't want this to sound negative about Dave, because again, he's been a great support when we've used him. He didn't call to tell me that. I heard about it because one of our colleagues in a local district who has Troon said, hey, just letting you know, Troon just sent this blast out to all of their members, letting us know that this has been shut down, more to follow. So I think there are just so many elements that being on retainer with them will make us more effective and more efficient in the job that we do. And congratulations to us, by the way, for not adopting that policy that all these other districts are going to have to rescind now. So, but that's why I'm recommending this. Again, Dave's our primary. With the things that I think are right in his wheelhouse, I got no problem calling him. We called him a month ago. On a student issue, we're going to do that. FOIA issues, we'll call Dave, no problem. I just think, I kind of liken it to, you could probably, and Josh is probably going to tear me down for this one, you could probably hire a general contractor to replace your roof. But wouldn't you rather hire a roofer? Wouldn't you rather hire somebody who's a certified roofer to do the best job possible than somebody who does a little bit of everything? I know I would. And I feel like that's kind of what we got here. We got a chance to have a legal team that specializes in the issues that are most critical to schools and can keep us informed. And all we need to do is put them on retainer. It'll lower our costs for trainings, because there'll always be some trainings we need to go to. And they're one of the leaders in putting that together. So that's my spiel.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cooper. Any discussion?
Yeah,
Tanya?
so I'm new, as you know, and as this is my field, how do we know if the administrators, are they just gonna, I'd like to know between the Throon and the Common, who are they gonna go to for, I mean.
They always call
I
me
under-
first. Their first call is to me.
Okay,
No administrator contacts anybody legal. You see them nodding their heads. They don't contact an attorney without coming to me first.
okay,
And so I'm kind of the gatekeeper for that. And like I said, for most of it, it has been Coleman. But this year, we've had some different, we had the millage, we've had the bond, we had some things that Coleman doesn't necessarily do. So there were the trainings, so there was a lot more where it wasn't Dave, it was Troon. But next year, we might not have hardly any of that. Well, hopefully we'll have the bond now, I guess, but, you know. So that's how it's decided, though. It goes through me.
it goes through you. And then, since it goes through you, then how much does it go, I mean, I understand, Common is more constitutional, I understand that, versus Throon is the overall state person, which is fine. But like I just kind of want to know the difference of how often you'll be using Throon over Common, if it's, I mean, you kind of broke it out, FOIA, constitutional issues, Common, but then you got the other, pretty much everything else to Throon, because Throon isn't my favorite, I'll be honest. dealing with them in my line of work. So I'm just trying to, I mean, it's just, they're gonna go with the flow. Whatever the state's doing, they're gonna do, and I'm not a fan of the state sometimes. So I just wanna make sure that we're going to Common 99% of the time, but I understand millages, Common doesn't want anything to do with millages or the bonds of the proposal, I'm good with that. But I don't want it to like, oh, Common didn't call me today, so I'm gonna go through it again. I mean, that's where I'm getting an issue with this.
Yeah, no, we've only had that a couple times and, you know, and again, that's gotten better. It was worse at the beginning, it's gotten better. Dave's gotten much better about responding, which is good. So I think this is another really good example. We all went through this required training with Troon. I listened to Troon. I guarantee you, Troon told every one of their clients and told us, you need to adopt this policy. I knew that, I didn't think it was a good policy. I didn't think it was, I was pretty certain there was a lot of uncertainty out there and that things might change. And see, I knew that that doesn't reflect this board. And again, some of this is trust, and you and Brandon are just getting here, and hopefully we'll build that trust quickly. Hopefully for the people on this board, there's that level of trust. But I went to Corey and Anna at one of the agenda meetings, and I said, hey, I just let you know, this is on here, and here's what I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna tell the board, I don't think we should adopt this policy, and here's why, because there's too much uncertainty, and they agreed right away. And then we called Coleman, Troy and I sat on the phone for an hour right away. We knew that if that was gonna be an issue, even though we'd been through training with Troon, Coleman was our call. Coleman was gonna be supportive of us. He was the guy who was gonna be standing next to us if it became an issue for us. And so some of this is based on trust as well. And hopefully in the last 2 years, I've built up some of that trust where, yeah, I'll call Dave. I really believe if you ask Dave, he would tell you we've had a good relationship and we've had good conversations. And so for the majority of these things, sometimes we might get an issue, and we had a little bit of this here. So we have an issue with, let's say, a student when they're in 4th grade, and we worked through Troon through that issue, and then they had another issue in 7th grade. It's kind of nice to be able to call Troon because they got all the backstory already. Dave doesn't have to do all the legwork and things like that. So I could see that being an area where it'd be good to go with them, where they've had some history. We might have an employee issue. Oh man, didn't we have that 5 years ago with a different employee? Yeah, Troon gave us some advice. It's good to follow, you know, it's
It
good to
saves
be
money on that.
consistent, yeah. So those are the areas. And again, I don't know if a leap of faith is too dramatic or not, but again, I hope that I've built up trust with the board so that you know, when I tell you those issues that I know this board finds most critical, Coleman's my phone call.
Any other discussion? Liz?
Question. All of the training, a couple of questions. The trainings, does any other law firm provide some of those trainings or newsletters? Is there like,
Some do, not as many.
okay,
And what I hear from other districts too, who have used others, they don't feel they're as informative. I'm sure Miller Johnson reached out to their people today. I'm guessing Clark Hill reached out to their people. We've had good interactions with Clark Hill. We've had some not very good interactions with Clark Hill. I don't have as much confidence in them as I've had with Troon.
is that
But
the
when it
same
comes
for
to the
Miller
trainings,
Johnson?
I would say that Troon really, you know, probably does 3 for every one that the other companies do. I do see, like I said, you're gonna see Miller Johnson and Clark Hill at these conferences. They always
Right.
go to the conferences. But to do separate trainings, they don't do quite as many, I don't feel.
Okay. We had in a previous meeting where we talked about utilizing Clark Hill for some special education type of things. I'm fuzzy if we labeled them kind of as secondary, how do they fit into some of this? I know that we use multiple law firms for different things, but I'm a little cautious, I guess. We got somebody on retainer, somebody that's listed as primary, somebody that's listed as secondary. How do we make our votes match what we need?
Yep, so Clark Hill, you want to rely a lot on your special ed director, because again, he's going to call me, here's the issue, and I might have some insight into it, but I might say, yep, this is one where we want to get the legal team involved. And early on, a couple years ago, it was like, who are you comfortable with? He's like, well, I worked with both of them. I worked with Clark Hill, I've worked with Troon. So when we had some conversations, it was suggested that maybe we should go with Clark Hill. Again, I feel some resistance to Troon. I hope you understand why I don't feel it. They've been a great support for me. I've been a superintendent for 10 years now, and I don't think Troon has ever represented me in a way that I wasn't comfortable with. I don't think they've ever taken a position against something I wanted them to take a position against. I don't feel like they've done that here in Allendale, but I understand there's some resistance. So that's why we went with Clark Hill. But if you asked our special ed director, he'd say, I'm very comfortable with Troon as well. And so if we did the retainer with Troon and we used Troon, we would then use Troon for our special ed, and then we get that savings. We get the retainer client savings by doing it that way as well. So a Clark Hill probably would not be one that we would use.
So I'm curious, so April of 2023, we decided as a board that Clark Hill was our secondary, right? Our secondary legal source.
For special education, yeah.
Correct. And, or for anything, it was, we kind of left it into your hands, whatever you felt you needed to decide, whether you needed to call Common, whether you needed to call Clark Hill. And thank you to Scott for crunching some numbers for me. I honestly was a bit appalled at how much money we've spent for Throon, almost $22,000 compared to Coleman's $4,700, where now it's looking like Coleman's not our primary. And so going through the list of some of the things that we spent for Throon instead of Coleman, I'm like, wait a second, FOIAs, the student issues, personnel issues. And I know we talked about this a little bit. You did respond in an email today, but was Dave contacted for these things? Was he truly like the first call? I'm curious what Dave thinks on these things. I know from past conversations that when we had put Coleman Legal as our primary in the very beginning in 2023, he said he was more than happy to handle all of our things. And, you know, you did have a conversation with him where he did say that, you know, if there was something that maybe is my weak point, it would be the bonds, right? And so he said, because I think you were kind of digging, like trying to see if he was good in all the things and would be a great support for our district, which is a good thing, right? So he did say that that was one thing that he would be okay if you reached out to another legal source. So I had questions about that, and so is what you're asking, you want Clark Hill to replace, or I'm sorry, Throon to replace Clark Hill as secondary. And then my second question is, and I wish I had more time to ask Scott this question, maybe he knows, did we spend any money with Clark Hill at all in the past 2 years? Or is it strictly just Throon and?
I got a bill for him on my desk right now.
Okay, I'm curious, like how much we spent to them in comparison to Throon and Coleman.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I didn't look that up.
The bill on my desk is for like $120 or something like that.
Okay.
But again, if you look at this, the bond work, which Coleman didn't want to do, the labor and employment webinar, which he doesn't do, the Title IX training, which he doesn't do, and the land purchase, which again, this isn't just like buying your home. I felt, based on some conversations, I didn't feel like he was the right choice. That's $18,000 of it. No.
Okay.
But again, when I first presented this to the
I
board,
just want to reiterate that.
the board knew that I was using Troon right from the beginning, because the forms that I presented to the board when we first made the proposal, when there was the first purchase agreement, came from Troon. So it
Okay,
was
I
clear
looked
that I
at
was
the
using Troon.
letterhead for our last meeting pertaining to the land purchase, and there was no emblem on it at all.
Okay, at the beginning there was. But again, that's $18,000 of this. And so when you look at it, again, there's the bond stuff, that'll be there again. Title IX training, unless they come up with new regulations and we have to be trained again, that won't be there. Troy probably won't need that webinar, that won't be there. There may be other trainings we have to go to. So most of that cost is gonna disappear, and you're not gonna see it again.
I guess, you know, another one of my concerns is that, you know, as a board, we already decided Coleman primary and Clark Hill secondary, so why wasn't Coleman first called? And then if Coleman was like, hey, that's not in my realm of expertise, then why wasn't Clark Hill called, you know?
Well, I kind of explained some of those. There were a couple of those issues where they'd been issues before. Truman had already helped us in previous, so we pulled them up again. And those are, again, when you look at the cost, you take out those 4 items, and the cost that remains is very small. I think,
Although the 40-acre purchase was $8,000, I mean,
yeah,
that's a large sum. I feel, you know, in the future, Coleman still needs to be that first call and just say, hey, this is what we have going, you know, and let him respond, right?
What if he doesn't respond? And what if he responds incorrectly and it causes us to have legal issues from that?
You know, I
Wouldn't
guess
you
that's an
want the
assumption.
best? Well, I think you're doing the same thing though. Right now, you're making assumptions too. So that's, I'm just assuming. Let's say that didn't happen, but it has. Should we, I would say, respect our administrator to make that decision based on the information of historicity, of what he's experienced, and having the #1 hand seat control of over, he's our employee to look over this district. That's where I feel like in a split moment like that, when the #1 call attorney is unresponsive for greater than 24 hours, in my role, I would not use that attorney ever again.
If you get an attorney to call back within 24 hours, you're amazing. That's not
I
going to
must be
happen in the
amazing,
normal
then.
field of, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it
I'm
does.
sorry.
It happens every single day.
I-
Every single
My
day.
attorney takes a week to get back to you, so,
Well,
I mean, there's
that's
so
why we
many.
don't use your firm then at my company.
But I'm saying, and that's why they have legal, if they did screw up, that's why they have legal malpractice, and we would not be responsible for it, they would be responsible.
I know, but I'm
So-
not talking about just, I'm talking about the well-being of our students, though. You guys seem like you're trying to just do this over who we have for an attorney. That's not my point here. My point is what's best for our district, what's best for our students.
I feel like that's why we decided, though, as a whole, the board, who our
Well,
primary
there-
was and then
the
who our
whole was
secondary.
very broken at that point, and I think we can all agree that the way that was brought about, and it has spoken about many times now, how that vote was brought about and what transitioned from there. I think that the way that this has worked out has been much smoother than what I think you're presenting right there. So I think that there's a little bit of deceit going on there.
No, but I think when you met 2 years ago, it was agreed Common was #1, which I agree with Anna on that. Common should be called. If Common says, and again, if he doesn't get back within 24 hours, okay, make that call. But if he calls back, I mean, you should give him the option. He said he never even called on the property issue to Common. He just went right to through. Now, again, I understand you say he's done that in the past, so that's why we went to him. But we have Common as our primary, so they should have the right to say, no, I can't do this before we go to the secondary or the third. That's just my opinion.
I think one of the things that's caused me concern is when I call Dave, and again, good guy, there are issues specific to education, you know, the prohibitive subjects of bargaining that are not something he deals with on a daily basis, the special ed laws, the just student discipline laws. When I call, there are times where even when he does get back to me, I get I'll look into that. And so I think he is looking into cases, but I think he's also contacting other attorneys that he works with. So I think we're not getting always Dave Coleman's opinion. I think we're getting opinions from attorneys that Dave Coleman associates with. And again, I think about if you wanted to take your child to a doctor and you had a chance to take them to a specialist who specializes in something or just a general doctor, in some cases, you would definitely want to go to the specialist. And when I call Truman, not to be argumentative, we get response within 24 hours. And if I call Dan Martin at Truman and he's not available, I press 0. Oh, we've got another attorney who also specializes in that in our office. And so I just, we have a chance to utilize a legal team that specializes in these specific school-related issues. That's what they dedicate themselves to, that's what they know, that's what they do. They're not, you know, if they ever gave us advice that's like, well, that might politically skew one way or the other, then yeah, I would definitely call Dave, because again, I understand where this board goes. But things like, we need to call him up because we got to get advice on this new law for overtime rules or whatever. That doesn't skew left or right. That's just a law and it just is. And we've got a group that specializes in knowing how these things will impact school. And to me, that's the greatest service you can do to our students, our families, and our staff, is to say, we're going to the specialists on these issues. We're having a specialist like this matters, rather than I'm going to call Dave and he's going to look into it. He's going to contact some, and he's told me, I'm going to contact some other people. Now we're not even using Dave Coleman's opinion. We're using the opinion of somebody he associates with. So again, I'm not trying to ace Dave out. We've used Dave. We'll continue to use Dave. I know what issues particularly we want Dave to come to the forefront on. I think there's a lot of things that Troon can provide as a service that will benefit our kids, benefit our families, benefit our staff, and really support this administrative team we have.
So I haven't been involved in much of this conversation. It sounds like there's a lot of history here. I'm not comfortable voting on this right now, so I wonder if we could table this and talk through it a little bit more at a working session, so I have a better understanding and can more confidently place my vote.
You'd like to make a motion to table it until next meeting?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to table the topic of approving a retainer with Troon Law and discuss at the working session upcoming.
I have a motion by Brandon, do I have support?
So to clarify, the motion is to postpone the vote
To next month.
to the next meeting. So this would be on the working meeting on the 27th.
There is no support, so we'll go back to the original motion. Do we have any more discussion on that?
Maybe not related to the vote, but one thing, and I know Dr. Cooper, we talked about it, that's hard for me to know is, I can look at the financials and see, you know, what bills we get from who and that kind of thing, but there's not a lot of context surrounding them. Is there a way in our weekly updates that can kind of speak to, not specifics, because I think there's some legal things about that, and every teeny tiny thing, we don't need the entire story, but just maybe some broad bullet points of legal context, so we have an idea. And some of that, like, kind of like like it's FOIA issue, especially, you know, that kind of thing. So if there are other questions we can ask, otherwise it's a little bit of context to the budget that we're looking at for kind of why we're contacting who.
Yeah, we could do that. I would say most times a monthly update would probably
That,
be sufficient.
however
if
it
that's
goes,
okay.
maybe if it's in
'Cause
one of the
there's a
week.
lot of times we don't call the attorney that much. It sounds
Well,
like,
right.
again, there is a lot of cost this year, but that's very not typical. A couple years ago, the whole year was 10,000, I think, or something. This is really not typical, so.
Cadence, I
monthly
guess,
would be
doesn't
okay,
necessarily,
and-
monthly would be fine with me.
Or, yeah.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
And, yeah, and again, you're not really, or maybe you are, so like if we do have to go to and I've done that before, I've put in my weekly updates, hey, we all had to be trained in Title IX, we're going to this. Is that kind of the stuff you want to know too, or
I
more
think it's-
specifically, like if it's a person issue, like a student issue, a employee issue?
If it's that,
or-
you can just put personnel issue there. So if I'm like, hey, you know, why, if it was a question of like, hey, you contacted Miller Johnson for this personnel issue, why them instead of
Yeah.
ABC or something like that, so very brief. I think the trainings would be helpful too, because I know that's something to know, like, is this just training that, hey, we thought this would be cool? Is this something that's legal, that's required, and this is our best source to get that information? A little, again, it doesn't have to be super wordy or a ton, but a little
Sure.
context surrounding that would be really helpful.
I can do that, absolutely. Yeah, and again, just to clarify, if we're able to, Coleman's the number one. It would only be true in certain situations, and I wouldn't call Clark Hill, and I wouldn't call Miller Johnson. Yeah, no, I know. I just wanted to be clear, again, because, you know, when it came up, it's like, yeah, so I just want to make sure that's clear.
Any more discussion? Amy, you have the roll call vote, please.
Harris.
Yes.
Hendricks.
No.
Holstead.
Yes.
Ramey.
Yes.
Tenbrink.
Abstain.
Durkettle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion pass. Can I have a motion to adjourn at 7:37?
I make a motion to adjourn at 7:37 PM.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say the same. Motion pass. Thank you, everyone.
Well, the first time's the hardest, that's why we try to have you do it with phones.
Yeah, and actually, I was gonna come in here.
Oh.